Good afternoon, folks. So just going to be doing my weekly outlook for this week. Starting from the monthly, breaking it down to the 4 hour. Just going to be looking at areas where I think are going to be important. And then, of course, bring those into the live lounge. And have great discussion and sort of get some guidance from Chris and everyone else in the live lounge. So monthly, kind of in a similar position to where we were 2 weeks ago when we formed this initial support. Not much to add. The month is still open. 1 week left, so we could close bullish, we could close bearish. So not much really to add on the monthly as it's still open. However, based on what I can see here on the weekly, I do sort of favor with upside. And the reason for that is solely based on the fact that when we had a push down and when we have formed this initial support, the following week failed to break the support low. So that support still remains intact. We then had last week another week to continue downside and continue this overall move down, but we failed to do so. So this low is still very much important. We could breach it this week, which again then would probably most likely, if we close down here, make the monthly candle bearish then. However, I'm sort of asking myself as well, why aren't we continuing down? Like, we formed in this support, could say this is just a pause for further downside. We then get some more downside here, but we don't continue. So I'm asking myself, well, like, if we are going to see downside, like, why aren't we continuing? There obviously is the chance for it to do that, but the more it doesn't do that, the more it makes me think price is going to go the other direction. So from looking at this chart on a weekly, I prefer buys, but I do know we are at the top of resistances on lower time frames. And just an area I would be paying attention to on the weekly is going to be this high. The reason being is this candle is the initial breakdown and break below of this range, and then we sort of form a structure where we pull up, form a resistance and push down, and we continue down. So we haven't revisited that. So I think on the way back up, that is going to be an important area, because although if I was looking at this as a trading time frame per se and say like, look, do you know what, I like this candle close, we failed to push down, I'm going to enter on the break of this high. There still is a possibility, because we have this little resistance in here, that this could pose as a reaction area and price could push up and then push down. So initially what I can see based off of this time frame is price can, hold structure supports above this area, or say we maybe break this area, put in a new high, come back below, hold support, and then we start to push up, re-break in this area. Looking at this time frame alone tells me that could potentially be an idea for like upside. But can sort of like look into that in a bit more detail and sort of figure out like, what is this on lower time frames? Is it an hour resistance, a 30-minute resistance, a 4 hour? And again, this is probably going to be a question or something I'm going to bring to the live lounge just to see, is that thought process correct? And because I know, looking back to last week, like on Thursday, I believe it was Thursday, yeah, it was Thursday when I took the sell, when we sort of had, if we flip this upside down and we sort of have the close above the range, the next candle then pushes down and retests it and then pushes up. So obviously re-breaking that on the way down would be a stronger confirmation as the safest area to enter. So I'm sort of looking at this is the initial breakdown candle. We then have this high here and we push down. So is that sort of the same thought process correct on the way up on this weekly chart? But you can get more accurate with that on lower time frames and stuff. But that's just going to be something I'm going to be bringing to the live lounge. So a question I'll have is that of the weekly. The daily, basically at the top of the range. So buying from here, from what I can see, isn't a good idea. We had a big strong rejection here on Wednesday, and then we've continued up to, you know, will it potentially fill this work? I don't know, but we're just obviously higher than this rejection point, or this close, I should say. So more so at the top of the range. So buying here, what I would like to see obviously on this time frame is a close above, structure holding above, and then continuation. So, excuse me. So not much to add on the daily. Just that we're at resistance, so it's inconsistent. Doesn't make sense to buy here. Maybe a lot of people are maybe going to be looking for sales in here, so downside, some form of downside likely, just depending on actually, do we just get a straight push and break through, then come back? Does price maybe come back and then continue through, or does price maybe come a little bit deeper and then we push up and end the week up here, basically just range again? Or do we just roll over to the downside and just kind of like here when we approach this resistance nicely? So do we maybe do that next week, and then again that might not look so much like a strong bullish monthly, or it could be maybe a bearish monthly close. So daily's a little bit inconsistent. I think between the daily and the 4-hour, the sort of same, you know, things I can see in the same thought process is like, we're at the top of the range, we need to sort of break the range, create a new high, create a new target, and then hold support above. You know what Chris pointed out here, and when we were here, sorry, was we're sort of doing like, you know, stairs formation in terms of breaking up, ranging, breaking out, and then ranging again. So we're sort of in the same position here. So I'm going to be paying attention to this to see what do we do. Does price range and then break up, and then can we maybe hold range above this range? What I was anticipating here, not anticipating, I shouldn't say that, but what I was thinking of was, because we'd done something similar here, or we had range broken out in range, I was thinking, can we break up, hold range above, and then if we break again, that means we're sort of going to be leaving this zone. If we can hold supports above, that's great. So do we do something like this week? Maybe range a little bit, break down or break up. I need more development based on the 4-hour daily, weekly. I can't really say that, yeah, buys make sense or sells make sense. However, I can sort of just plot for both. And when we were here 2 weeks ago, I sort of, you know, planned for breaks above and targeting into this zone, and then breaking down below here, targeting into here. So sort of the same thing, but I hadn't really planned for here. But I'm thinking, because of this week and this structure that we've put in, can this maybe be the week that we do get some form of higher support again and push and break to the upside? So targetability, if we do break up and out, it's most likely going to be in and around here, 164, 100 into this, between 164 and 164, yeah, basically the support zone, as it's going to be like most recent area. You know, you could maybe look at areas within here, but what I was actually looking at on the daily time frame, if I just bring all my levels on, is this is the mid, that if I look at this as the range here, right, this is basically this bit here is basically the mid-range, right? So looking at this throughout, we've got resistances, supports, a lot of consolidation, touch points, resistance here recently in December, and then we pushed up, can't break it, push up, test it, push up again. So we're sort of like trying to, you know, get through that area. So for me, I like the idea of, if we can break up, if we're able to hold supports on, you know, 1-hour time frames, 4-hour time frames above this area, to me that's going to be a good sign to see further upside. Because how Chris, you know, talks about ranges is when you have the high and the low and you have a mid range. If we can you know, if we push down and we remain below, there's more chance of seeing downside. If we're above the mid-range and we hold support, there's more chance of seeing upside. So I'm going to be paying attention to that mid-range level there, and that might be something I'll ask Chris as well, because it is relevant. But if we can hold support above there, does that support, you know, the sort of higher time frame outlook for upside in that sense? But obviously this area is going to be important, I feel, whether we sort of approach that this week. But 4 hour, yeah, top of the range. So this level here, this is actually a 1 hour resistance, 30-minute resistance, yeah. So it's a high on the 4 hour daily, weekly, and it's a 1 hour resistance. So be interesting to see. So yeah, my focus points is just going to be further development on structure. This high body resistance, obviously this sort of mid-range level I've got from last year. Being above that, prefer to be banned away from it all, so that would support buys. Again, if we sort of can push up and we can't just, and we just start to break down, then of course sales are probably going to be favorable, sort of similar to last week. What else? Is there anything else that I can see here that I'm unsure of? Bring, ask. It's hard because I don't want to pay so much attention to this, but a lot of this is still very much relevant, you know, and resistance. Q2 base. Let me have a look at the Q2 base, because last week when we came to the charts, 2 weeks ago, when we were trading, you know, in and around here, I didn't want to sell into this because of this inconsistency here. But then as we came to it, we sort of broke through nicely. We then came back up. Very heavy news event. We're looking for potential buys in here, but again, market position told us that it's not the best area to trade. So we came back down through it again, and then on Friday there was a nice move in here. So very much for me, the Q2 base is going to be an area to pay attention to, and it is quite inconsistent across the board. You know, when I look at here, yes, most recently it's been a little bit cleaner. However, it's still very much inconsistent, and I wasn't going to trade through it 2 weeks ago, and I believe last week I think I says I wasn't going to trade through it. So it'll be interesting to see where, like, what sets up in and around here, and being aware of how inconsistent it is. So it could be an area to obviously not trade through again. But when we were here on Thursday, or sorry, Thursday, Jacob, Mary, a few other guys weren't really interested in buying here because of market position. Now, whether that's just because such a big push during Asian that they think maybe volume isn't great for London, or because of we're at resistance. So again, being in that same boat this week in the exact same position, I think it's not wise to then trade that. So I'm going to be paying attention to see where, when we come to the session tomorrow, where are we? Are we still in here? And then if we are, most likely Monday might then be just like a no trade day for me, because again, taking the approach of last week into this week, it wasn't a good area to trade last week. So what would make it a good area to trade this week? You know, if there is bullish candles and I say, look, I'm sitting out, and then we do get continuation, that's obviously just going to, you know, add to my understanding from the being above here. And if we can get above here, it's just maybe going to provide better opportunities later in the week. But I would prefer to let that play out and see it happen than maybe try and get into a trade here and it fucking break down, and then you're like, oh, I shouldn't be banned here in the first place. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna wrap that up then. There's not really that much else to add. I haven't checked anyone else's weekly outlooks out yet, so that's my that's what I'm going to do this evening. So if I have any questions or anything, I'll bring them to you in the live lounge on Monday, and see what everyone else is thinking. But catches on the flip side.